I'm Sarah Colas. Welcome to the Dressing Up podcast, where we talk about all things bridal dresses and general dressing up topics. I love to encourage women to dress up while expressing their personal style with confidence on how to do so. Visit sarahcolas.com to book a bridal alterations fitting, or even inquire about designing the custom couture bridal gown of your dreams. I am so excited to talk to you about this next topic. Let's get started. All right. So very special guest today on the podcast. I had to pull him in he was cleaning my car. That's love. He was cleaning my car. I've been waiting for you to start this podcast episode. Today, we have Billy Bell on here, who is, if you don't know already, he is my husband. So say hello, Billy.
I'm the first gentleman of Sarah Colas Custom Designs. That's the way I like to think about it.
More like my CFO or assistant to the CEO.
Yeah.
However you want to put it. Fabulous. Okay. Well, what's coming up, Billy?
Our anniversary.
Okay. What's the day? How many years? All that.
It'll be June 8th. We're going on 4 years now.
Yeah.
Very exciting. Almost to the coveted 5-year mark.
My goodness. So, time flies.
It does. Yeah.
Well, fabulous. Well, I thought we could just take a moment to reminisce and for all my listeners that haven't yet met my husband, here he is. Very exciting. So I'm going to run through just some questions for you. So I typically ask these types of questions to my friends or, people I'm writing a blog post about. So here we go. What was your favorite part of the wedding day?
The whole wedding day it's exciting. It's a lot, but it's a day that just kind of flies by. But if I had to pick my favorite part, once you kind of get to the reception, first off, when you're a groom, I'm sure a lot of grooms can relate to this. Your significant other goes through and does the majority of the planning, right? So on the wedding day, you feel like one of the guests that's kind of surprised. You don't know what to expect.
Oh my God.
So for me, a lot of this was a big surprise. I knew where the wedding was going to be at, but I didn't know the details on how it was going to be decorated or what the colors were going to be or all that kind of stuff. So my favorite part would definitely be when we got to the reception. The craziness and the chaos of the day starts to slow down a little bit. And you can just kind of kick back, enjoy a really nice meal, have a drink or two, and dance the night away with your wife. So I would definitely say that's probably my favorite part.
So are you naming your favorite part as just the entirety of the reception? Because that's very vague.
And not even the entirety, but just the end. After the speeches are over, everyone's just kind of relaxing, the band's playing, you're just enjoying, dancing, visiting with all your friends. The celebration aspect, I guess if you will. That's my favorite part.
I actually remember that quite a bit at our wedding because we did have the dancing floor in a separate room. So I remember kind of once dinner was over and we started going around to tables, and then people started just slowly trickling into the dance floor room. And the bar was in there and the band was just doing some subtle playing. And I remember it was a solid 10 minutes, I would say, that was just very anticipated for the rest of the night. But it was just a very just soothing, calm moment. I think that was fun.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. Everyone's relaxed at that point. And like I said, you're just enjoying, you're getting to be with, your wife or your husband, that go around, talk to all your friends and family that came to enjoy the special day for you. So I definitely think that's kind of the best part or the highlight of the day.
Okay, fabulous. So, this is kind of funny because it's me asking you, but what were your first thoughts when you first saw me walking down the aisle?
I was definitely, this sounds kind of funny because I think a lot of husbands are looking at their future wife's face and kind of looking to see what their facial expression is. But for me, the dress was kind of the highly anticipated thing. So I kind of found myself looking at the dress, right? We had talked about this dress for 2 years. I knew very little details other than it was going to be white. So, when you kind of turn the corner and those doors open, I was just kind of taking it all in, taking a look at the dress. And I'm sure, as you know, it was a lot different than what I had initially thought when I looked at the sketch. So that was definitely an exciting part for me.
So tell me more. What do you think of the dress?
I thought the dress was beautiful. I really did. The detail on it was incredible. I understood now why you put so many hours into it. All the beading, the lace, all that kind of stuff was just so much detail that went into it. What's the term? The tambour, the beading, right? Yeah, the beading, the attention to detail is just incredible. And it was just an exciting moment, because I know you had spent a lot of time on it. I think everyone that was at that wedding that knows us, that knows you, that knows that you're into sewing, that you made your dress, it was just exciting. Just everyone looking at it, kind of taking it all in. A lot of people taking photos, stuff like that. So was just good to see you kind of have your moment.
Thanks. What would be something kind of funny that happened on the wedding day? Anything in particular that just gave you a good laugh? Or something that or should I spin it? Something that maybe went wrong?
Well, the one part that I found to be particularly funny was I think everyone was surprised at how good of a speech Colleen gave. Her speech was really, really funny.
My sister, maid of honor.
Yeah, the maid of honor. She's not particularly known as like a public speaker, but she did end up getting her law degree and went on to be a lawyer. So I guess it makes sense that she's good with public speaking, but she really just kind of came out of her shell and gave a really, really funny speech. It was good. It just kind of caught everyone off guard. My brother, Brian, was the best man. And he's very much an extrovert, right? So I think everyone was expecting Ryan to have this great speech, which he did give a really good speech.
Right. I know it always shadows Ryan. Ryan gave a really, really good speech. It's just we expected it because he's good at that kind of thing.
Right. So I think everyone was anticipating like, yo, Ryan's going to give this great speech. It's going to be awesome. And then Colleen just kind of came out of nowhere and stole the show. So I think everyone got a really, really good laugh out of that. And it was pretty funny.
It was funny. Gosh, it was a good speech. Okay, so if you could do it all over again, what would you do different? And don't give me the cliche of, oh, it was perfect, I wouldn't change a thing. What's something you might change?
Really from the get-go, we had a very, very large wedding, right? We had damn near close to 300 people there. I think it was like 250.
It was close to 250, yeah.
And it was just a lot, the bigger the wedding, the more planning that has to go into it, the more details. It just really kind of complicated things, right? So I guess my advice would be, or maybe my recommendation is, don't be afraid to have a smaller, more intimate wedding, right? We really enjoyed having all these guests here, but it's kind of overwhelming trying to get around, make sure you talk to everybody, thank them for being there. So part of me kind of wishes maybe we did have a little bit smaller, a little bit more intimate wedding, but like you said, I know it is the cliche thing, but looking back on it, it was a great day, great night. There's really not much I would change.
Yeah. And I want to make sure there's no misunderstandings on this. We absolutely loved every single person that was at our wedding, which is why we could not make our guest count smaller.
Right.
But we understand the planning process and just the logistics of everything. It would be a lot easier with a smaller guest count. But we just couldn't cross those names off because we wanted everybody there.
Right. So. I even remember going through the planning part, and we went and looked at a ton of these different venues, but the majority of them couldn't even accommodate our guest list or the number of guests we were going to have. Right. So it's just kind of things like that kind of added stress to the wedding planning. The bigger, the more complicated it's going to be, things of those nature. So.
Yeah, for sure. So just giving a little overview of our wedding, we did the ceremony at my childhood church growing up, and that was really awesome. They had actually just renovated right before our wedding, so it was just gorgeous and fabulous and just really awesome that I got to get married there after spending every Sunday of my childhood there. So that was great. And then we did an art museum in downtown Detroit for our reception. It was absolutely gorgeous, and I mean, taking photos there was awesome. So one part I think a lot of people don't know, like that attended our wedding, is that Billy and I went around with our photographer and took some really awesome photos around the museum with all the art and everything. And it was just really cool to be able to be there in your wedding dress and your tux and just walking through all this art and taking some awesome photos. So it was a really, really, really cool experience. And that was one thing I really wanted from the wedding from the get-go. Like I always tell people to like pick your top 3 things that are most important on your wedding day. And of course, mine was like my dress, but also I really want to create a wedding experience for my guests. That was something that was important to me, that when they attended our wedding, it was an experience for them. So it certainly was. We always joke that we wish we could have just simply been guests at our own wedding, because, added stress as the bride and groom, it would have been fun to just be in the background a little bit, be a fly on the wall type of guest. So I really enjoyed our wedding.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. I think you summed it up kind of nicely there.
Yeah. So what, I think you already answered this one, but at what moment did you feel like just extra relaxed and joyful on the day? Like there was just one moment in particular that you're just like, oh, wow, this just feels so good.
I do vividly remember this one part. And I think either the next day or maybe the night of, I showed you this picture, but the morning was not chaotic by any means, right? But you kind of wake up and you have this sense of like, all right, big day in front of me. Like I said, it's very kind of scripted. It's like you got to be ready at this time. Photographers coming at this time. Got to be at the church at this time.
Yeah.
And so it's a little overwhelming, right? But you plan, you're prepared for it. But we got ready in the morning, got dressed, did our photos, and now fast forward, I'm at the church, right? And the groom and the groomsmen had to be at the church extra early so that when Sarah came in, I was kind of ushered away into a room and there wasn't any risk that I might see you before you walk down the aisle, because that was important to us, right? So I'm in this room kind of all by myself. My parents were in there, said hello to them. They kind of walked out. They're getting ready to start greeting the guests as they're coming in. And I'm just in this, it was like a children's nursery at the church. I'm just in
Yeah.
there all by myself.
It was called the Smile Room, and I used to volunteer there as a teenager.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So I'm in this room. I don't have to be at the actual ceremony for about another, 10 minutes or so. But I got a good like 10 minutes just by myself. I was dressed. I felt good. I looked good. I'm at the church on time. All my groomsmen are there. Like everything was in place, right? Just having that kind of 10 minutes to yourself just to kind of enjoy it and relax a little bit, because the ceremony is obviously the most important part of the day, right? That's when you're there. You're officially going to be married. You're making this lifelong commitment to your partner. But it was nice just to have that 10 minutes to myself, just take a couple deep breaths, just relax, get ready for it. And I just felt really just, blessed, fortunate to have made it to that day, be there, and was just excited. You know what I mean? To any of the grooms, if you happen to be listening to this, definitely if you get a chance, try to carve out, 5 or 10 minutes to yourself. Just be by yourself. Don't have any family, don't have any groomsmen, don't have your phone out. Just take a moment just to reflect and soak up the moment and just enjoy the day. I definitely think that's an important thing to remember.
That is a really cool moment. I remember you telling me about that. Oh, and I also remember you said in that moment you took a selfie because it was the last photo you were going to have of yourself as a single man.
Yeah.
So I liked that.
Once again, I just kind of wanted to soak it up too, right? I just felt, I felt fortunate. I felt blessed. I felt happy. So I just kind of wanted to take a moment and just sort of capture that, that might be a photo I get to show my children one day, or one of my kids on their wedding day. So it was cool. It was a really neat moment to have.
Much prettier photos to show them, but
that is true. But that one in particular was kind of special to me. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, that's cool. I had a moment right before walking down the aisle that everyone was lined up and I was kind of like not hidden away, but I was around the corner so no one could see me. And I was all by myself. I'm like holding my bouquet. I'm like just standing there waiting, but what I felt like forever. Mm-hmm. I mean, in actuality, it might have been close to 10 minutes, but it felt like just forever. But it was a moment that I could just like be by myself. But at the same time, like, and I can see all the bustle of everything in the distance, just the bridal party and all, but it was like a very emotional moment for me too. I was like, keep it together. Like this is happening, like stay in the moment, all those things. Anyway, I want to go back to one question. Okay. Something I would change about the wedding. Okay. One thing for sure. I did end up having a fabulous friend do some day of coordinating for us, which was just awesome. But if I could give advice to future couples, it would definitely be to get a month of coordinator, if not a full-blown wedding planner, because it is a lot to coordinate. And I would definitely highly recommend that. That's something I would have changed. But at the end of the day, I loved having Nakari was there and he was just absolutely fabulous. So that worked out great for us, but it would have taken a lot of stress off to have just like a company do that for us. And then something else I would change, which you might not agree, but I have noticed the great benefits of a first look from going to my friends' weddings and seeing them do a first look. We didn't do that. And I did realize actually in the moment, one downfall of not doing the first look is that we did a full-blown hour-long Catholic ceremony. So we didn't get to chit-chat with each other at all for a while. And it was the first, we didn't talk to each other at all. Like the wedding day, you gave each other cards or whatever, but we didn't text each other. We didn't talk to each other on the phone, none of that. Like the first moment we saw each other that day was at the aisle. And I just really wanted to talk to you about my dress. I had so much to tell you, but I had to stay silent in that moment. So that's where I feel like a first look is really beneficial.
Right.
And of course it helps the day run smoother.
Yeah, I felt a little starstruck too. You had come down the aisle. Obviously I'm looking at it. There's a lot going on. And then before we know it, we're just kind of standing next to each other, holding hands. And I'm trying to focus on what this priest is saying and like, be there in the moment. But I found myself like glancing over, like looking at the dress, looking at you. It was almost like a little bit distracting. So To those of you that are going to do a first look, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. In fact, like you said, I think there's a lot of pros to it. So
Yeah.
don't be afraid to do that and have that special moment, just the two of you. When it comes to weddings in general, at the end of the day, it's all about what you guys want. Do what makes you happy. And there's not really like a one size fits all on what you should do on wedding days.
Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah.
What?
So what are you planning on doing with the dress now that we're 4 years out? So those of you who don't know, it's stored away very nicely and neatly in a very nice garment bag, hung up in our closet.
You know where it is?
I do.
Literally just move your head. It's right there.
It's right back here.
It's right behind
So
us.
my question is, do you have plans to put it in like a preservation box,
Yes.
or what are you going to do with it?
Yes.
Or it's just going to hang in the closet until the end of time?
It's like, it's like being a parent. What is it? Like, do as I say, not as I do. I tell all my brides, and you do, and I stand by this. You really should get your dress cleaned and preserved after, which I did do the cleaning part, but I've had various people want to see my dress in person over the last several years. And I do have it in a nice muslin garment bag, and I have it all as nicely as possible hung up in the garment bag. But I do have the box, so I do need to box it up soon. But yes, having it cleaned was like a number one for me. Like right when we got back from the honeymoon, I started, looking around to see what dry cleaner I want to go to, and had that done right away. So that at least is good.
Another thing that's kind of, I think, underrated about the weddings, I think we're going to touch on this topic too, but one thing that I particularly enjoyed is obviously the wedding day's over, you're moving into the night. And then at one point in the reception, it hit me like, whoa, in a day or two, we're going on our honeymoon. Right?
Yep.
Do you want to tell them where we went for our honeymoon?
Yeah, we went to Sandals in the Bahamas. So that was fabulous. And it's really funny. I did not give Billy a warning that we were recording this podcast episode. And this is what he's wearing, his Sandals golf polo. So we've kind of become, I think we'll probably be regulars at Sandals because it was really good. We are not getting paid to talk about Sandals.
No, we are not. No. Maybe we should. Yeah, maybe we'll reach out. But no, I really enjoyed Sandals because in the craziness of all the wedding planning and everything that's going on, I feel like these all-inclusive resorts, you just show up and there's a million activities to do. You don't really have to come with like a plan. You make one payment and all the food is paid for, all the drinks are paid for.
There's no stress when you get there.
Yeah.
There's nothing to worry about.
Right. So it's just super convenient, basically just to hop on a flight. Really wasn't that far to get to the Caribbean, right? Yeah. I think we had a layover in like Miami or something like that, but the travel time wasn't terrible, and you just show up. You can eat all the food you want, have a couple drinks. There's good entertainment there, a lot of activities to do. The weather's great. So I don't know.
So I always say pack lots of sunscreen, but pack it in your checked bag.
Yeah, yes.
Billy, pack it in your checked bag.
So I made the critical mistake of we bought probably like $60
so much sunscreen. And if you know me personally at all, I do not like the sun touching my skin. So this was I got a lot of sunscreen for a good price up here. And then Billy accidentally puts it in the carry-on bag, and we get it taken away. All of it at security. They're like, what were you thinking? I had like 6 giant bottles.
I got the check bag and the carry-on bag mixed up. And so that was, and then we found out once we got to the resort too, that like the tiniest bottle of sunscreen was like $30.
And we were broke after our wedding.
Right.
We were like, Billy, we have to make this little tiny tube of sunscreen last. We can't. So of course, then I went a lot skimpier on the sunscreen than I normally would. And sure enough, we were on the catamaran snorkeling tour, and we both got so burnt. So burnt. And Billy was already burnt. You were actually burnt on the wedding day because you had gotten burnt while mowing the grass or something. So he got a burn on top of his burn, and his shoulders were literally bubbling.
Yeah.
It was really gross. You still have scars from it.
I do.
His shoulders are still scarred. So if you're going to Sandals, pack your sunscreen in your check bag and everything will be great. But all good memories. But yeah, it sucks that you have that scarring.
So that's kind of another funny memory I have about the wedding too. And I kind of got lucky with this, but I think it was like we got married on a Saturday, and I think on Thursday my parents were hosting people. I helped my parents out and said, hey, I'll mow the grass for you guys, right? People are coming in town for my wedding. I don't want my dad to have to go out there and do it. So I wore this kind of like tank top type shirt that you would wear to the gym. Didn't put sunscreen on, just wasn't thinking, and was out there for 2 hours mowing. And I got this terrible sunburn all on my shoulders and on my back and on my arms. Luckily, my face didn't get sunburned
Oh
or
my
anything
gosh,
like
can you
that.
imagine?
But yeah, that would have been a nightmare to pay
Oh.
all that money for all those photos, and my face was all red and bubbly or something like that. So
Saying that at the wedding, people kept like slapping you in the back, and they're
yeah,
like, "Good job, bro," and then
yeah,
you're
it
like,
hurt.
"We're in pain." So, like we talk about this all the time. As women, we prepare so much for the wedding day. Like I hear brides talking all the time about how they are wearing a certain swimsuit that matches their wedding dress so that they don't get tan lines before the wedding. But this stuff can happen to guys too.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, what are you gonna do? You just gotta deal with it. But
So yeah, I mean, leading up to the wedding, you got to be careful. Don't accidentally break an ankle or something terrible like that. Kind of try to stay in a little bubble, if you will. A week leading up to the wedding.
let's give a moment to our bridal shower that your mom so nicely planned for us in
Yeah.
Mary Galata, and it was just fabulous. It was at their country club, and we had about 60 people there. It was fabulous.
Yeah, it really was. It was great.
Probably the only bridal shower you'll attend.
Yeah, yeah. So
I guess a few others.
in typical fashion, as the groom showed up at the end and just want really
Opened
well.
all the gifts, showed up to open all the gifts.
Yeah, exactly. I helped load up the car and take everything home, and that was a great event. And the one thing I really liked is our rehearsal dinner. We made the decision to do that on a Thursday as opposed to doing it on a Friday,
Highly recommend that.
which was great.
Wedding was Saturday. We had a Thursday rehearsal dinner. Highly recommend.
Yeah, yeah. And I'll be the first to admit I wasn't sure what to think when you made that first suggestion, but it was great. We got the rehearsal out of the way. We were able to enjoy that rehearsal dinner. Didn't have to worry about getting to bed at a decent hour. And then we had all day Friday just to, sit back, relax, enjoy, take care of any errands or any last minute stuff you wanted to do, and got to bed at a decent hour on Friday night and woke up feeling like $1 million on Saturday. So
that was really nice. And yeah, Friday night could be a little more relaxed. We had some out of town guests at your parents' house, so we got to do all that. But yeah, it was fabulous.
Yeah, no, it turned out great for sure.
What about, should we talk about our engagement a little bit? I mean, we can make it really long, but maybe we try to shorten it up. Where do we start?
From the man's perspective, it's you're the one actually doing the engagement. You buy the ring in advance. Some people ask for their father-in-law's permission, all that kind of stuff. So we're very similar to the wedding, where it's a little bit nerve-wracking sort of leading up to it, and then you go and you do it one day and she says yes, and you feel like all that weight is kind of lifted off your shoulders. But definitely a super exciting day. I had made the decision to really tell nobody except for my brother and my family. My family basically knew that I was going to propose to Sarah.
And my parents.
Yes, that's right. And your parents, because I had to ask for Sarah's dad's permission. I just kind of wanted to do it the old fashioned way, and definitely glad I did that.
And my mom.
Yeah, and your mom too, of course. So yeah, the whole engagement is super exciting. Obviously, it kicks off all the wedding festivities, and it's just good memories about it all around for sure. So I remember really what kind of kickstarted the whole process was I felt like the time was right and started doing some research on rings and what I wanted the design to be, and like what cut of diamond you wanted. But Sarah's very close with her mom, right? And I've been very close with her too. I mean, I had known her for about 10 years at that point. She's kind of like a second mother to me.
For those that don't know, we started dating at age 15. Never broke up. High school sweetheart. Yeah,
so I knew Mrs. Coles for a very long time. So I had actually taken her out to lunch one day at Carrabba's, and it was kind of funny. She wasn't suspicious of anything. She thought I was just
completely oblivious, to the point where I talked to her on the phone because I was out doing something with my dad. And I talked to her on the phone, and I'm like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm at lunch with Billy. How nice is that? He asked me to lunch." And she was like totally oblivious. And I'm like, I didn't know Billy. Like, I thought Billy would have told me something like that, but apparently I was oblivious too, because I didn't. But Billy hadn't yet asked her for the permission yet, so she didn't know what was going on yet.
Yeah, so Sarah's always been very close to her mom her whole life, and like I said, I have been too. So it felt good to sit down with her, have a nice lunch, and then I was kind of nervous throughout the whole thing because it's like, how do you organically bring that up, right? It's a big topic to address, and you just have to know what the reaction you're gonna get is and all that kind of stuff. So halfway through, I kind of brought up like, hey, started looking at engagement rings. I'm thinking about asking Sarah to marry me here soon. And, she almost broke out in tears, right? It was good. It was a really good reaction. She kind of leaned over the table, gave me a hug, all that kind of stuff. And I was really nervous about talking to Sarah's dad. Wasn't really sure what the kind of reaction I was going to get.
You asked my mom first to help soften it, I'm sure.
Right.
You had like a buffer.
Yeah. And Sarah's parents are really hard to like nail down and get just some quiet time with just the
Schedule
two of
wise.
them. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. They're always moving
They're always
around.
doing something.
So it's difficult just to get the two of them alone, for 15, 20 minutes and have that conversation with them. Sarah's mom was sort of helping me and setting up these situations, but it took me about a month just to actually like sit down and talk to Sarah's dad. But we had gone to a bar, Louie. It was late at night, during the week, like 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night, something random like that. But same thing, I had brought it up to Sarah's dad and said, hey, I'm thinking about asking your daughter to marry me. Just wanted to have your blessing, your permission. And same thing, his reaction was very welcoming. It was like a feel-good moment.
Not right away though.
The first thing he said is, "Oh, you don't have to ask me for permission. Like you're an adult." I'm like, "No, I understand that, but
The principle.
yeah, it's just like the principle, right? Like
the manners of it.
Yeah. I just wanted kind of the respect of doing something old-fashioned.
He doesn't get it.
Yeah, he didn't really get it, but towards the end of it, he was very, very, very nice and very happy for us. And that's something I recommend to a lot of people, especially if you have a close relationship with your significant other's parents. Maybe if you've never met them before or something that might be a little bit different, but it felt really good going into this whole engagement and this wedding planning, just knowing you have the support of, friends and family and stuff like that. So it was a feel good moment. It's one of those things too, that core memory, I feel like I'm never going to forget. Even as I'm sort of talking about this right now, I feel like I can visualize that scene in my head, like where we were sitting, what we were wearing, all that kind of stuff. It was a good moment. It was a feel good moment.
Yeah.
So
I was completely oblivious that Billy was proposing when he was proposing, because he did a very good job of like hiding it, but also like how naive I was is kind of like shocking. But yeah, when he asked me, I was shocked.
Yeah.
He proposed. I was sitting down on the bench and he proposed, and Billy works in finance. Okay. He doesn't have a very like artsy type of vibe to you.
No.
So when he proposed and opened up the ring box, I was genuinely shocked because this ring is gorgeous. And it's kind of sad. I'm actually not wearing it right now because it got bent. Apparently, rose gold is soft. So I hit it on a door frame and it just bent. Everything's fine. Diamonds are fine. The metal's fine. It just needs to get fixed. But so it's off doing that right now. But I was just totally shocked that the ring was so beautiful that you had to ask me twice.
Yeah,
said,
I do remember that.
Because I was just dead silent, just staring at the ring. I'm like, how did you figure out how to do it?
Yeah. So the day I proposed, once again, really good memory about this too. Had the ring, my parents knew I was doing it on this particular day. I had a good moment with them. I was living with them in an apartment in Plymouth at the time, but sat and talked to them just for about 10 minutes. I really remember that, giving my dad a hug and giving my mom a hug too.
I actually know that part.
Yeah, no, it was great. So then I took off, and what I had told Sarah was we were meeting my family for dinner out in, Birmingham. And what we were actually doing is I was going to pick her up at her parents' house and was going to take her out to a bench down by this river and ask her to marry me, right? She didn't know any of that.
Well, here's the thing. We were already very late because in normal Sarah fashion, I did have a bride I was working with for alterations. So there was this, I'm not going to explain too much of the backstory, but there was this huge emergency situation in which I was done with my other job that I had at the time. I was done working there and I was driving home and calling Billy and saying, hey, I'm sorry. Like it's looking like I'm not going to be able to go to dinner with your family tonight, AKA the engagement. So I'm like, I have to go see this bride. Like I have to take the dress to her house today. The wedding's happening. Like things are going on. I have to do this. And Billy's like, don't worry. I'll drive you. And I'm like, no, like then you'll be late to dinner. Like we can't do that. He's like, just trust me. I'll drive you. Don't worry about it. And I actually did think it was really strange that you said trust me. And I'm like, what do I have to trust you with?
Right.
But anyway, normal Sarah fashion, we were dealing with a bride that day. And then he goes and proposes, and then we come back home and there's a whole little party there. So that was fun. But yeah, that was our engagement. But Billy, being the husband of a woman that works with brides a lot, what are your thoughts? Like, how lucky are you to be a part of all this sewing and dresses and all these really fun things?
I definitely think I know a lot more about weddings and brides and sewing than I probably wanted to ever know. But I knew that what I was signing up for, and
He
that
knew
just
what he
kind of
was
comes
signing
with the
up for.
territory.
It's
And
very true.
yeah, no, so it's great. It's a good industry to be involved in and work in. It's very happy things, right? I mean, most people
Best
say
time
that
of your life.
yeah, your wedding day is the happiest day of your life, right? So every day we get a lot of excited brides that come through, and so it feels like a lot of positivity around all this. And so I enjoy that aspect of it. It's a feel good industry to be involved in.
Okay, and let's think about this. Billy knows a little bit about what I do. I mean, it's always so hilarious when he comes down like into my sewing space and picks up like the most random thing is like, what do you use this for? What do you use that for? All these sewing supplies and things. So he knows a little bit. And I'm talking, he's like the very tip of the iceberg. But knowing what you know, do you have any like advice for brides or anything that you can share that could just like help make the experience that much better?
Every day, just take a moment just to take it all in, enjoy it. After you get married, it's very exciting because you're starting this whole journey with your spouse, your significant other, but life slows down a lot. You kind of get into your routine. So enjoy the craziness of the wedding planning because it goes by quick. And then one day you've been married for 4 years, and life just, you get into this routine and all that kind of stuff. So just enjoy it.
That sounded like advice coming from a groom. I don't think that was really like
It's easier said than
related,
done, right?
but we'll take it. Like working with brides, like you just never know what's going on in the background. I know that like, my wedding vendors didn't know what was going on in the background. You never know what somebody's going through. And whether or not you're engaged, whether or not you're married, life happens, things happen, and it's hard. I mean, I get it. As a bride, as a groom, as a couple, you juggle a lot while you're engaged.
Yeah, you do. You
And
do.
and I understand when things can get stressful, and I totally understand that. So I try to provide, a service in which you don't have to worry about your dress. I'm going to take care of it, and that's always my goal, is to make the process easy for the brides, because I know that these things can be chaotic. So just trying to make that part of the day just easy for them.
Yeah, no, of course. What did you think on, you wake up on the wedding day? What were kind of your first initial thoughts? What did you think of it?
Okay, so
Were you nervous? Were you excited? What were your thoughts?
yeah, all of the feelings all at once, for sure. So what was also nice about having a Thursday rehearsal dinner is that I did get to bed at a decent hour on Friday. And I tried so hard. Keep in mind, I was living at my parents' house at this time. So getting married for both of us was an even bigger deal, because we were leaving our parents' house. We were starting our new life together. We didn't live together before we got married, which I'm finding is extremely rare, but that's just the way we wanted to do it in particular. So going to bed the night before the wedding, I'm like, Sarah, don't even think about the wedding, even in like the slightest bit. I'm like, my mind, I just emptied out my mind. I'm like, don't think about the wedding, because I have to get some sleep tonight. And I knew if I thought about it too much, I wouldn't be able to fall asleep. So sure enough, I tend to do that. I tend to fall asleep really quickly in general. So I got a really good night's sleep, which is really helpful. Woke up, I had my cat there, and if you don't know, I'm a crazy cat lady, I guess. But it was just a really nice morning. I had my sisters there. I had Angela doing my hair. I had Melissa do my makeup. Colleen was just there.
Yeah.
It was great. It was just really, really fun having a moment with my three sisters and my mom and my dad. And it was just like the six of us, my immediate family. And it was just an absolutely beautiful morning. I loved it. For me, it was actually quite stress-free.
Yeah, no, that's good.
It really was. It was not hectic. It was just us six, and it was great.
Yeah. No, and like you had mentioned earlier, we both wrote like letters to each other that we exchanged. And, I read Sarah's letter, Sarah read mine the morning of. Definitely recommend that. We still have those letters, but that was kind of like a core memory for me, like going through and reading that kind of sets the stage for the whole day, right?
Yeah.
And then I think your sister had wrote a letter for you too, which was really, really nice. And things like that, whether you are the bride or the groom, or maybe you're the maid of honor, best man, or mother of the bride or father of the bride, something like that. I think just doing those, those little things like a handwritten card, you just wouldn't believe the kind of memories that creates, right? It just makes the day super special. And it's the stuff like that I really enjoy, and even on my morning, looking back in our photo books and stuff, there's moments where like my dad's helping me get ready, or just things like that. I just feel like I'm never going to forget that. And even when we look back at our photos and I see those photos of us getting ready, just super special. And it's just, I'm telling you, it's the really, really little moments like that that you remember, just being with your family and your friends and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For me, my favorite part of a wedding day is the getting ready part. I'm sure I'm not alone in that as a bride, but yeah, it was really special. And yeah, Angela writing me that letter, my other two sisters were really upset about it because they're like, Angela, why'd you do that so secretive? Like, we would have written one too if we knew you were doing that.
Yeah.
But nope, Angela wanted to take all the credit, just doing that all by herself. So she did that. And it was, I think, the only moment in the day that I actually cried,
Right.
which I actually think was kind of nice because I think it kind of got it out of the way where I'm like, okay, I got my crying done, and then moving on with the rest of the day. My makeup wasn't looking awful, but that was really, really sweet. And, we exchanged a few gifts and just like had those special moments, then headed off to the church.
Yeah. So were you nervous? I don't know, let's just say 10 minutes before you had to walk down the aisle. Like, what were you thinking at that point?
Well, I remember being in the like bridal room.
Mm-hmm.
And all my bridesmaids were there, and in true bridesmaid fashion, everyone was finishing up, touching up their makeup. And so the room actually was very hectic, but me being me, I had my day planned out so well, and I made sure I wasn't running behind. So it was kind of funny actually at the house when me and my sisters were getting ready, and then also at the church when all the bridesmaids were running around waiting for the ceremony to start. Everybody around me was very hectic and chaotic, and nobody was ready. Like, my mom was late getting ready. My dad was late getting ready. I'm like sitting there waiting for people to be ready when I'm just sitting there watching all the chaos happen in front of me, which is obviously the better way to be. But I, as the bride, I'm like, I'm ready. I'm just waiting for everybody else. But I remember being in the bridal suite and they had like an analog clock, and I'm just like watching that thing like tick around. I'm like, oh my God, that needle is getting really close.
Right.
But yeah, those moments. And then all of a sudden you get the coordinator come in. They're like, okay, everybody line up. We're going.
Right.
And it's like, okay, this is happening.
Yeah.
It's super exciting. It's just, it's a once, most of the time it's a once in a lifetime opportunity for us. I'm sure it will be. It felt like a movie.
It did. It
Felt
definitely
like
did.
you were watching a movie that you've like,
Yeah.
maybe you like know this, how the storyline goes, but you like haven't actually seen it yet. Yeah, so that was really cool. But so we celebrate our anniversary every year. So our first anniversary was June 8th, 2020. So we always envisioned ourselves going back to the art museum and just doing a little date night there every year. But of course, the first anniversary we had, it was shut down, obviously. I'm sure you know why. And so we decided to make a tradition where we go and have a little picnic at a park here in our city.
Mm-hmm.
Right on the water. So we've been doing that every year, and I'm sure we'll continue doing that. It's my busy season, so things get busy. I think last year we just picked up KFC and went and ate. Very romantic.
Right.
So
yeah,
it's great to celebrate it. So
yeah, no, I like that aspect of it. I like the tradition of it. The parks in Novi where Sarah and I grew up, and where we live now too. And it just goes to show it's not about the expensive gifts or the fancy dinners or anything. It's just about doing something together, the two of you, and kind of like what we're doing right now. We like to reminisce on the day and just talk about the good memories we've had. And
we actually don't do anniversary gifts.
We don't do
that.
No.
But I want to share about our first anniversary.
That was a good one.
So Billy was working at an automotive plant. So COVID or not, it was open. So he was going into work every single day, actually down to Toledo. And he told me that, I was working from home at the time, and he told me that someone was going to be delivering a part to our house that was super, super important. So I had to be there at noon. And then of course I'm running my errands for the day, and I'm like, shoot, like, Billy, I'm sorry, I'm not home yet. And he's like, it's okay. Like, the part's not there yet. So I'm just like sharing how naive I am with all these surprises.
Much, yeah.
But so sure enough, the part gets delivered. I'm at home, and it's actually just Billy standing at the front door with a big bouquet of flowers from the flower alley, our wedding florist. So that was really cute surprise. Men, get your girls flowers. It's easy. It's so meaningful. I love getting flowers.
Yeah. Like I said, though, I think the most important part about the anniversary, do something together. It can be expensive, it can't be, but just spend time together, reminisce on the big day. And the thing that I always find fun is we look at current status, where we are, where we're living, and we've got 2 cats, and just how much we've grown as a couple in like 4 years.
So different. I feel like
yeah, completely
when we
different.
were 4 years ago. It's crazy.
And
change.
yeah, it's just fun just taking a look back and just appreciating how much you've grown as a couple is always a great thing to do. So definitely, I love the anniversaries. It's a good time to just reflect and just enjoy that special moment, the two of you. So yeah,
I could go on and on and on about our wedding. I mean, I could relive the whole day with you guys if you want me to, minute by minute.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to do a part 2 again for next anniversary.
We'll see. Yeah, next year will be 5. So time is just passing right by.
Yep.
Anything else you want to share or talk about being the husband of Sarah Cole's Couture Gowns? Anything fun?
No, just been enjoying the ride. If you listen to this podcast and maybe you're planning on coming to see Sarah one day, you'll maybe see me lurking around, just trying to hide in the shadows of the house.
Do you have any marriage advice being 4 years in? What would be a top tip?
Once again, super cliche answer, and I think we were just talking about this earlier, but I think communication is key, right?
It's with anything.
I'm like a big sports guy, so not to draw.
We're not talking about sports on this podcast. I'm sorry.
Communication's the core of it, right? So talk to each other, dream together, have goals together, work together as a team, do things together. When you have a problem, talk to your wife or your husband about it. When they have a problem, be approachable, allow them to talk to you, to vent when they're having a bad day. Just always be talking to each other. Keep that line of communication open. And there's going to be really, really great days and great moments in your life. And there's going to be terrible ones, but that's what a marriage is about. You're together through thick and thin. But as long as you guys communicate, support each other, be a team at the end of the day, I think any marriage can be successful as long as you guys are willing to be on a team together.
Yeah.
What about you? What's your one piece of marriage advice?
I would think, I mean, there's silly things. Like growing up, I lived with 3 sisters. So I didn't understand, like I'd never lived with a man like that before. So I'm like, oh, okay, the bathroom is going to be this way now. Okay.
I don't know. I think you're the messy one.
Oh my goodness. Don't get me started. But I do think it may be cliche too, but I feel like we're only 4 years in, so I feel like we can't even be giving advice right now. But if I could, I would say just like really prioritizing the other person's happiness. And I feel like if I do things that make you happy or support you in things that make you happy and you do that for me, it just like makes everybody happy. So
yeah, no, I agree.
So I think what our listeners really want to know is, when are you finally going to learn how to sew and jump on board? Because I've been waiting for a long time.
So Sarah had mentioned earlier, obviously what I do for my work, I'm in like finance and accounting. So I sit at a desk all day. I could take a whole year off work and just sit with you and try to learn how to sew, but I do not think I'm physically capable of doing it. So the good news, if you're listening to this podcast and you're a bride, you will never have to worry about me touching your wedding dress. that will never be the case. So sleep well knowing that.
I'm quite sure everyone knew that question was a joke right when I asked it. So yeah, I know. And it's just so funny. Like, but Billy knew what he was signing up for. Like he had been watching me do this since we started dating at 15 years old, and I was practically a little baby in the industry. But
so the interesting thing is, I work in finance and accounting. I'm also a big sports guy, love sports. I'm always watching sports, following it. Sarah has like 0 hand-eye coordination. She can't catch a ball, she can't throw a ball, she can't hit a ball. So there's things that I think I'm like relatively, talented at or understand pretty well, but you can't do them at all whatsoever, right? But conversely,
what's the point of this?
No, you're super, super creative. There's amazing things you can do. You can draw these sketches, you can make these dresses. And obviously I don't have an inch of that in my body, but it really, like you said, it's opposites attract, right?
Yeah, for us, it's opposites attract.
We complement each other. Yeah. The things that she's really good at, I'm bad at, and vice versa. It's like,
we fit the mold of each other. I don't know what to say. But
yeah, no, I agree.
We fit together very well.
Yeah, it's funny how that works out. And so
yeah. Did you ever think when we were 15 years old that this is where we'd be sitting right
Oh
now?
God, no. To be honest,
Podcast.
there's a lot of things that I envisioned. I knew you liked sewing. I thought you might have your own business sewing one day, but I never thought I'd be sitting here recording a podcast with you. So,
Oh my God. So funny.
yeah, great. Just crazier things could happen, I suppose.
Yep. It's been quite the journey.
Yeah.
So I forgot to ask you this question in the beginning. I ask all my podcast guests, what is your favorite item in your closet right now?
Oh
gosh. I know what it is. Can I answer?
All right, go ahead and answer. Let's see, because I have something in mind.
It's like the dad vest.
It could be.
No, it is.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay,
Actually.
what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say I like wearing a lot of. Okay, hold on. Let me back up. So when I go to work, I dress in like sporty attire, So I wear like these dry fit like golf pants, and I wear these dry fit golf polos and like quarter zips, and that's just what makes me comfortable, right? Because they kind of feel like sweatpants, but they're not. But yeah, I forgot about the vest. I had been wearing vests a lot.
Sometimes he comes home from work and I'm like, do you know who you're married to?
I know.
We have standards in this house.
Yeah. Sarah is very particular about what she buys and what she wears, and it has to be like, this vintagey vibe. It has to be really well constructed and well made. And I'm the kind of guy that I'll walk into like a Dick's Sporting Goods, and as long as it fits me and it's like this dry fit material because it's comfortable,
Loves the dry fit.
I love the dry fit.
Loves the dry fit.
Once again, opposites attract, right? So. Yeah. But yeah, anything golf attire would probably be my go-to in my closet right now.
Yeah, so very golf attire.
Yeah, I think a lot of your listeners would be quite disappointed in me if they saw my closet, but that's okay.
You when you dress up though, you can get dressed up. You can get dressed up. I'll give you that.
Yeah, and on a day-to-day when I'm going to work, it's just kind of all about comfort, but
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to learn more about our wedding, I do have a blog post up on my website, sarahcoles.com, all about my wedding dress. And there's a YouTube video. Our wedding video is on YouTube, like the short version. And I'm sure I'll be posting a lot about it here. So
I do want to ask, what's your favorite thing in your wardrobe right now for spring? We're spring. We're kind of looking
to summer. Me?
Yeah.
Gosh, I haven't actually thought about the answer to this question myself.
I think I want me to answer.
Okay, you answer.
Sarah likes anything floral. Oh. She's got so much floral.
I'm not right now. I wore light blue because that was our wedding colors.
That is true. Is true. But yeah, anything floral. Would you agree with that? It's kind of your go-to.
100%. And you know what? I was actually gonna say long floral skirts are my jam right now.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
And they've been my jam for a while. So whenever I see those, and you typically, for the standards that I have, like I can kind of only find them at vintage shops. So I've been stocking up on those when I find them. Love a good long floral skirt. They're comfortable. They just look good. Yeah. You look dressed up, but you're like super comfortable.
Yep. No, I agree. That's all I got.
That's all we got. That's all, folks.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you, Billy, for taking the time to be a guest on the Dressing Up podcast.
Yeah, no, I'm honored. I never thought I would be, but I'm glad I'm here. So I hope you enjoy it.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this episode has allowed you to approach the world with greater confidence in your own personal style. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out through email or inquiry form on the website. I hope you are all ready to go and get dressed up. I look forward to sharing more dressing up tips with you in future episodes. See you there.